Espresso.
A new podcast has stormed through social media, changing the face of podcasts forever. Espresso Coffee Talk. That's right, Espresso Coffee Talk is the new kid in town.
Who are you?
Coming up on Espresso Coffee Talk.
Like you write yourself out and write yourself off before you even give someone else the opportunity to know you, basically. Which is what you're kind of saying.
Right. Right. Well, it's kind of like the meme, when true love is there, farts don't matter.
That's true.
The following episode is sponsored by listeners like you. If you would like to sponsor or donate, please visit ExpressoCoffeeTalk.com. That's XPRESSO CoffeeTalk.com.
Fake news.
Have you ever felt unqualified for a job or a relationship? Maybe from the get-go, or maybe circumstances arise that cause you to feel that way. Or maybe both. Maybe you have felt unqualified from the very beginning, and when the circumstances arise, it only confirms the feeling. This episode is for those people who, with conviction, take on that job or that relationship, but are compelled to feel like they just don't measure up. So sit back, grab your cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. So what brought this all to mind was, when we did our first episode, one of the questions I asked was, did you want, and I asked Dan this too, did you want the job that you got? Because in ministry. In ministry.
Right, okay.
Music ministry is one thing. I spent 18 years doing it.
Right.
But to be a pastor, a little bit different story.
PJV in the house.
Oh. But I never really wanted the title. So,
yeah.
But also I never felt qualified for that title.
That's fair.
Did you ever feel qualified for yours? I asked you if you didn't, you said it wasn't on your radar, I believe.
It wasn't on my radar. Ministry wasn't. So I think because mine was with kids and there was like the teaching component, I felt qualified to teach. I felt qualified to teach the material. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I felt qualified. I felt like I would never do it justice. Like I wouldn't be able to necessarily. It's one thing to teach kids to write their name or, like they're going to get it. And hopefully the same goes with faith. But I guess it was more about like laying that foundation for me and knowing that I did have supports that would continue to feed into these kiddos. So qualified, yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no. I've definitely had positions where I'm not sure I didn't feel qualified.
Like what? The winery?
Hey, I mean, kind of, yeah. That one, and qualified from a standpoint of there were people who had been there longer than me and who I felt like knew more than I did. But I also think that I was in that place at that time for a reason.
Yeah.
And too many things lined up for it to happen, for it to not have been what was supposed to have happened.
Yeah, I feel like that was for you, well, and for me too. The winery was a place to enter in. Qualifications, probably didn't have the qualifications, but had the desire to do something different, had the desire to interact with people, had the desire to, but I
had the desire to learn it as well.
Yeah.
And I was excited about learning it. So I think that was part of it.
Right. And
a big part of it.
For me, it worked out because up to that point even had a desire for, I'll make this sound like I'm a drunk or something. I'm not, but to appreciate wine,
Right.
to have that appreciation for wine, the process and all that stuff, that had already been a part of something
It was
within
already
me.
part of your life,
Yeah, it was a
right.
part of my life.
So can I tell you a secret
Yeah.
that won't be a secret anymore?
Yep.
Maybe it's not a secret, but when I started working at the winery, I wasn't even drinking wine. I had and liked wine, sweet wine. But when I started working there, I had a wine that did not agree with me. And I thought it was that all wine made me sick at that point. So I was not
Into wine.
into it. And I'll let you figure out what I'd had.
Oh, I think I already know, but I'm not gonna. I'm not going to
blast that.
Nah, I won't blast that.
But those in the know,
Because
if you know, you know.
Those in the know will know.
Yeah.
And we'll laugh when they hear this.
We'll laugh very hard, yes. But like I was so sick after, like just my stomach just hurt so bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess I can't drink this.
But it also tells how much you drank.
No. Listen. Wow.
Well, you know that because we've told customers that
In moderation.
in moderation.
But even like I really hadn't had that much of it. And my stomach hurt so bad. And so I was like, I just can't drink this. So anyway, I wasn't drinking wine when I started working at the winery. That's what I'm trying to say there. So for me, it was like, this will be a fun job.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, I know all this stuff about wine. Nope. I learned that from you.
And Carter.
And Carter. Yeah. Hey, Carter.
Hey, Carter. No, so what it floors me because I was thinking about this the other day too. In jobs out there, people will spend tens, hundreds, thousands of dollars on some sort of education.
Right.
They'll get to the workforce.
Yeah.
They'll apply for positions. And one of the first things that will one of two things will be said to them. Either A, they don't have the experience.
Right.
So they can't get hired.
Which is frustrating.
Or B, they are overqualified. Which floors me. But I know
Which
what business
just means they don't want to pay you
right,
for what you're worth.
Right. Yet when
Or they can't afford to.
Yet when there are businesses out there who are requiring the qualification,
Right. Right.
it doesn't make sense.
You're right. It doesn't. Well, or the other thing that happens is I went to school,
Yeah.
spent the thousands of dollars and all the time. And am I using said said degree?
Credentials.
Right.
Yeah.
Not really. Yes and no. I mean, that was the beauty in mine was that it was really, applied to motherhood and other people's kids, just, interacting and whatever. So I guess I'm using it, but not in a traditional sense, I suppose.
But it always seems like the businesses now take the underqualified.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is people who they might have some education, but they're more just in a place where, and I get it. There's a positive to it in that you can train them to be what you want them to be.
Right.
But for the people that it causes you to ask, did I need to spend all of that money on the college education to qualify me for a position that I am now either overqualified for or I can't get because I don't have the experience?
Right. I often think, when you think back about interviewing people, and we talked about interviewing people in the last episode we did together, but when you think back about it, I would much rather hire someone who has no knowledge of the product or of the business that you're hiring for and hire someone who has the drive and who has the desire to learn and know, because they're going to buy in and they're going to be on board with everything, as opposed to, well, you've got the qualifications, but you're a real stick in the mud.
Right.
That's not any fun.
Think you know it all.
Right.
Right. No, I get that. I think my biggest thing is you have to have that drive.
Yeah. And just that desire to want to learn it and want to do well for yourself. I mean, more than anything, enough self-confidence to,
Yeah. But, thinking about like the winery, for example, you have that product, hiring somebody on who, like you said, has the drive, the desire to learn. There's value in somebody who already knows. Like, again,
absolutely.
For me, I mean, I didn't have any qualification to be anything special. And the only experience in retail that I've had is prior to that is restaurant work.
Okay.
So not really.
Where does your marketing bit come from?
I don't have any credentials for marketing, but I love to create and I love to figure out ways to, I don't know, what's the
You're
word?
good at brainstorming ideas for how to do that sort of thing, though. Like how to create
That's
interest and
yeah. That's that one thing where, just like you're talking about, you have the drive or desire. So I'm going down. We have laughed about this before. You drive down the road and the old people, what do?
they read all the signs.
They read the signs.
Which, by the way, I do now.
I love looking at signs and literature and I'm going, yeah, this ain't gonna go very far. Or
Yeah.
ooh, that's a good idea.
And the design aspect,
Yeah.
how it draws you in or turns you off, kind of thing. Yeah.
Those are things I love
Interesting.
to explore.
Yeah.
Just the intricacies of, I don't know.
Well, I think you're very good at it. And so that's interesting. I mean, from the under, or what are we saying? Unqualified?
Yeah.
Like credential wise, you don't fit that, but you're very good at it. So then,
And I've never really pushed for a marketing position anywhere
right.
because of that.
Yeah.
Talking about being unqualified. I have no credentials, which a lot of places they want 2-4 year
Right.
schooling
That's true.
in marketing. And so it's not, because it's not there for me. I've never really pushed marketing because I've never felt the qualified. So that's that.
Interesting. So, but here's another question for you. Are we ever really, and maybe I said this already a little bit, but are we actually unqualified or we just lack the confidence?
Well, I think that comes in whoever's determining the qualifications.
True.
But if you can, here's the thing, excuse me, if you can sell yourself, and this was the thing about marketing that I like, if you could sell yourself or sell your product or sell, whatever, you could probably get in to those places where whatever qualifications they want of you, they can overlook if you can really sell yourself to this position.
Improve your abilities.
Which again is something I really, so my big thing with getting in at the winery was, not only do I like and appreciate wine, But to be able to say, here's why I would be good
Yeah.
at retail, even though the only retail I have is restaurant business. Here's why I would be good. And to say, look, I have been in ministry. I've dealt with people, the ins and outs of people, people who.
Man, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall at your interview.
It was fun.
My interview there was fun too.
Yeah.
It
good.
was. I really liked it. I went in truly with the idea of this is going to be a fun summer job. And my qualification was I'm not scared to talk to anybody. And so I will talk to whoever walks through the door. You teach me what I need to know and I will talk to every single person who walks through the door.
Right. Right. And you did learn,
I did.
having grown into a management position.
You're right.
So that's cool, though.
It is.
Yeah. That's a good example of starting off not qualified, but
Right.
ending up qualified. Yeah. I feel like it goes beyond, though, the workplace.
For sure.
The idea of being qualified or not.
Yeah.
I think that it flavors whether or not you and I have talked about, and like even in our last genuinity.
Which I'm not sure that's a real word.
I looked it up.
Are you sure?
I did.
Okay.
Look up. It's on Google.
I used the Googs, and the Googs told me it was not a word.
That is not true.
It said, not a word.
No. Unless you spelled it wrong.
Look at you making this my problem. Rude.
I 100% looked it up.
Okay. Anyway,
It's 100% a word.
carry on. This is your podcast. We'll say it's a word.
Oh my.
I just wanted to put that out there for anybody listening going, did he make that up?
This guy's going to edit this out.
You better not.
Anyway, when we were talking in that episode, we said the first 7 seconds.
Yeah.
Again, according to Google.
Google.
But we said,
But see, that was Google playing in Google played in my favor both times. Anyway.
we said 7 seconds.
Yeah.
You make a judgment. But I often wonder too, is it just a judgment on them or is it a judgment on us? Like within that first 7 seconds, you can judge another person's qualities, but do you also say,
Excuse me, sorry.
do you also say that, how do I want to put it? I am not, or I am very much qualified to be that person's friend.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was thinking when you said we take it beyond work is, yes. Do you size them up and you're like, yep, nope, can't be their friend. Not cool enough, pretty enough, smart enough.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we do that in relationships too. And I think that
yeah.
also happens within that first 7 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that you can see somebody and go, a guy could look at a girl and depending on his confidence, will either look at her and go, there's no way she's out of my league. Or, oh, I'm chasing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I would imagine that a girl would like a guy who is confident enough to say, I will do my best and go after that person.
Sure. To an extent.
To an extent. Well, but then when true colors get shown or whatever,
Right.
whatever. Not that all confident men are bad and all unconfident men are bad.
Right.
But I'm sitting here going, we make those judgments. Whether we like to think so or not, we make those judgments, and we probably often make them quick about ourselves even.
Yeah.
Are we qualified
You're right.
to be that person?
You're right.
So, people, this is my love life now. Why are you... I had a lady. I was talking to this lady, and for context, she's an older lady.
Okay.
And love her to death. And you would have to know her to appreciate this conversation. But she says, so, this is on the phone. She says, so, about your love life. She says, do you have a girlfriend? 10, 15 of them? My response was, well, first of all, I appreciate that you think that I could get 10 to 15 all at once. But no, not 10 to 15 and not even one.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah. Not dating. And part of that is, though, I look at myself and I go, I know me. And there are some things that I'm going, there are probably things that anybody else would go, who cares?
Yeah.
But I know them for me. And I go, do I really want to, like this? I feel a little bit less qualified because of those. There might be like idiosyncrasies, or they might be things that I can't control even. Just whatever.
Right.
But that's where I go. I look at myself and I go, I don't know. But I also appreciate the friendships that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy people like you.
Oh, you know. Yeah.
But I think that we do that too. I think our qualifiers, we have those imposed upon ourselves when it comes to people.
What is it that they say? Don't write yourself out of a room you're trying to get into, or something like that. Don't. What is it? What is the saying? And it's some sort of. Again, I feel like I talk about this every time too. It's some kind of trauma response. Like you write yourself out and write yourself off before you even give someone else the opportunity to know you, basically. Which is what you're kind of saying.
Right. Right. Well, it's kind of like the meme, when true love is there, farts don't matter.
That's true.
I mean, on surface, that's a funny meme, but I mean, deep down,
It's true.
you get to know somebody. You can get to know somebody and look beyond certain things about them.
That's true. Oh, so true.
Oh, so true. Anyway, so we do that in people, with people. Now, talk about ministry. And it always seems like the number one thing that God does is to say, I don't care about your qualifications.
Yeah. That's true. So it's not like I read something that said followers don't get to be choosers.
Okay.
Followers don't get to be choosers. You don't choose to follow Christ and then give him a list that says, okay, well, these are the things I really enjoy to do, and these are the things that I like. So when you're going to use me in a way, or you're going to call me to do something, please choose something from that list. He calls you to do
What he calls
you to do, not what you call you to do. What
So-
you call you to do, yeah.
So your qualifiers.
Qualifiers are that Christ called you to do it.
Yeah. Like it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just talked with the youth about this the other day. You know, we have spiritual gifts and there's not refunds or exchanges on those. Like, those were given to you for a reason. You don't get to say, excuse me, customer service, Mr. Jesus, I don't like this one. I would like to exchange it for something new.
Yeah, that's true. You have the gift of gab.
Hey,
Well, you do. But I was just talking in general.
Oh.
You have the gift of gab, but I don't want the gift of gab.
Yeah.
I want the gift of prophecy.
That's what I was actually thinking. Oh my gosh. Creepy.
No, it's not.
Stop reading my mind.
Whatever. But I get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, God really just says. But also, God qualifies people who you would never.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because even if we're called to do something, he's going to equip us with what we need. So whether we think we're qualified or not, he's going to provide, and he's going to equip us how we need to be successful.
Sure. But also,
I mean that's easier said than done, of course.
Right. But I think that also we box that in too to the people who are believers. Mm-hmm. And God's going, no, I use everybody for my purpose. Uh-huh. And if you read the Bible, you can see God uses kings. He uses,
Paul.
Yeah. But like Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel, he's going, I have raised this person up to do this. Mm-hmm. Nebuchadnezzar worshipped himself.
Right.
And Babylonian gods. Mm-hmm. He didn't.
Right.
Whatever. But he didn't worship the God. Mm-hmm. And God's going, I'm going to use him anyway. Mm-hmm. I've raised him up to do this.
Right.
And he will see who I am. Mm-hmm. Which he did. Jonah. Mm-hmm. You're going to go.
Nah, I'm not going to do that.
I don't think so.
I'm going to skip that.
Can we put that on layaway?
No refunds or exchanges.
And yet God says, no.
Yeah.
You're going. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One way or another.
One way or another. Esther, who is the only qualifier was that she was a virgin and very pretty. But she's used for a purpose. Mm-hmm. You can go there's many
so many.
others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Down the line. Mm-hmm. But God, me.
Me.
Not ever wanting to be a pastor, and yet here I am.
Right.
Yeah.
And you do a great job at it. Like you said to me this morning, well, is it me or is it God? Well, it's both of you. It's God, but you're open to hearing those things and.
Yeah. Well, there's the example of saying, I don't feel qualified to be a pastor, but I have a drive to learn and to be or to present things. The hard part for me that I don't feel qualified for is, and this is probably where God's going, yeah, exactly. But the hard part that I don't feel qualified for is actually leading people. When people struggle, when people have problems, circumstances, predicaments, whatever, I don't feel qualified to lead them.
You don't?
No. What is that?
I feel like you're very qualified.
You've been through a whole lot.
You've seen some things.
You've done some stupid stuff. You more than qualified, fool.
No, but I think you do a really nice job at counseling people and helping people through those situations. And again, that's because I think you personally don't think you're qualified. But those of us around you know that you are. Just like, I don't feel qualified to be leading these kids right now. my qualification is that I'm very passionate about it and I'm excited about it and I want to set people up to be successful, and because I just have a love for it. That's my qualifications.
Right.
That's it.
Other than you've had experience with.
I mean, I have, but again, you've had experience too.
You've been through some stuff.
Right. But I mean, when I think back, okay, like, and I'm going, I did some really stupid stuff as a teenager. Stupid stuff. And I'll be really honest. I mean, like, obviously I'm not sharing all my deep, dark secrets, but like, I even just said to them the other day, I'm like, listen, like, very vulnerable here. Like, I've messed up a lot. So you're not going to surprise me with things, you know?
Right.
Like, I was a teenager too. And I was a teenager who was very much scared of faith and was probably on the fence about where I even stood with that. So you're not going to surprise me, you know? And not to mention I have teenagers.
That's true.
Oh, they're good girls.
They are.
Everybody's got that goodness in them. It's just finding it sometimes.
There you go. No, but I think not feeling qualified to do some of this stuff is, I don't know if it holds us back. Because like you said, don't write yourself off from a room you're trying to get in. Although the other side of that is this wasn't necessarily a room that I was trying to get in.
Right.
I think even in my own trajectory, I said it on my website, had the title of pastor, tried to get rid of it, ran from it.
Yeah.
It caught up.
Sure did.
So what you got?
So here's something, and this is really just about, this kind of goes back to talking about not being qualified for a job. And where we talked about, like, is it credentials or is it drive or whatever? There are people less qualified than you doing the thing you want to do simply because they decided to believe in themselves. That's so true.
Absolutely. Which brings to the third point, and that is, or maybe the fourth point, who knows?
We've lost count.
But that is that there's always, and I'm not boxing this into just ministry and stuff, but there's always a blessing for those who are willing to take the road, even if they didn't plan on it.
Most of my roads lately have not been planned.
Right. But I mean, my favorite story, I have two as a musician, music lover, whatever. First one is Nora Jones. This is a girl who, she, to my understanding, had no, like, she's not trying to make it big in the music business.
Really?
She's just playing in her bands in Texas, in her band in Texas, and gets discovered at a House of Blues or something that she's playing at, and by an AR rep from a record label, a big record label, who hears her and says, "We could make you big." And she takes the road and grab a hold of this for a minute. There are a lot of people, well-known people, who have been around in the music business for decades, who fight to win things like a Grammy. She gets on there, cuts her first album, and it goes out for sale. She wins not 1, not 2, not 3, not even 4, but 5 Grammys on her very first album.
Seriously.
Nobody does that.
Wow. That's impressive.
That's very impressive.
I knew the bit about that she didn't necessarily want to be big.
Yeah.
Or I guess was she not, she just wasn't pursuing that.
She wasn't pursuing it.
Right. I knew that part, but I didn't realize the rest, I don't think.
Yeah. The other one is, do you remember Rich Mullins?
Yeah.
So he's a prime example of somebody who didn't want to either. He's just a guy who's wanting to write music.
His song is in my head now.
Which one?
I'm not going to sing it. Awesome God.
Okay.
You can sing it.
No.
Okay.
But he's from Richmond, Indiana.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a little outside of Richmond, Indiana.
Winchester?
No. No.
Okay. That's all I know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Anyway, goes to Cincinnati to college,
Okay.
writes music, crazy stuff too, not just this sugary,
Worship music.
not even worship. I mean, back then, music wasn't really. Then Christian music, as we know it today, wasn't really a thing.
Right.
I mean, you had very few people doing it.
When you say back then, like how long ago?
Late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not really hit. I mean,
Right.
There's a few.
Okay.
Okay. So he writes this song, and I don't know who sends it off, and a recording of it sends it off. Amy Grant, who is just making it huge, finds the song, wants to record it, and he's going, no.
Really?
Yeah. No, I don't want any part of that. And they are literally telling him, look, no, really, just give it a chance. Come down to Nashville,
Wow.
do all, whatever. And you're going, here's a guy who doesn't want it at all. And so it ends up, she records the song, and it becomes very popular. And the rest is kind of history with Rich Mullins.
Wow.
But they said he died, believe it or not, never knowing how rich he was.
Really? Mm-hmm. Because it just didn't matter to him.
Didn't matter to him. He went to a financial advisor and said, listen, I'm putting you in charge of the finances. This is the wage that I want. I want a working man's wage.
Wow. That's awesome.
But this it's just funny because they're like, they were interviewing the financial advisor, and they're like, if he knew how rich that he was, just royalties alone.
Wow.
Like, but there's the example of going, here's this guy who, just like you said, I don't know how that read, but just like you said, he's going, I don't want it. I have no desire for it. And yet, he's not working as hard for it, but he gets it.
Yeah. It says there are people less qualified than you doing the thing you want to do simply because they decided to believe in themselves.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an example of somebody really believing in somebody else.
Yeah.
And
sure.
just opening that door for both of them.
Yeah.
And that seems to be how life works, is to not really You fight for something that you really long for or want. And I don't know. It's almost like the people who want to make it big don't. Or they have to go through hoops and hurdles and whatever. And then you've got these other people over here who they're not qualified. They don't care about it, but they're making it. That seems to be how life.
But do you think that sometimes when people are like jumping through all the hoops and it's been such a hard road, that's because that's not what they're supposed to be doing?
Maybe.
Because like to me, I don't know. Like that's so confusing to me. And again, like I'm learning to like be still and try to listen better for those sorts of things. But it feels like sometimes we fight so hard for something and it's like, yes, that you have to keep fighting for it. That's what you're supposed to be fighting for. That's what you've been called to do. Keep fighting for it. And then there are those things where it's like, okay, I've fought for this for so long and it's not working. Like at what point am I accepting that it's not working because that was not the right thing in the first place?
And for me, that's where I say it's easy to say that when you're not in the middle of the fight.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also easy to look at somebody else's life and go, you've been fighting pretty hard for this. Nothing seems to be happening. Are you sure?
Right.
And then somebody like me who would be in the midst of the fight would go, okay, is this person telling me truth? Or are they like Job's wife where it's like,
right,
just curse God and die and get it over with?
Right. I know. Right. That's where I go, okay, wait. How do I know for sure?
Yeah, in the middle of the fight, it's really super hard to see whether or not you're supposed to be doing it.
Yeah. Well, here's something else for you. I had a couple of these things saved because I don't know, I did, and I've shared this one even on my Facebook before. But what would happen if you stopped disqualifying yourself from opportunities that the Lord put in front of you? I feel like I do that more than the other way. Like I disqualify myself. Like I'm like, no, I'm not qualified.
Interesting.
And then they just keep showing up in front of me over and over and over and over to the point that then I'm like, okay, I get it.
But maybe the fact that you are seeing it is good.
Yeah.
Because
I mean that I recognize that I do it.
No, that you recognize that they are things in front of you.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here going, are there opportunities like that in front of me that I'm just going, I'm not qualified for? Like, am I seeing those?
I don't know. We can discuss some things off.
What are these opportunities that, but it makes you wonder, like, are there people who are going, who don't see them?
Oh, I'm sure there are. And again, I think part of me seeing them is because some of it is my own desire to do those things, but feeling like, no, now is not the time. Or no, now is, for whatever excuse. But they just keep they just keep ding, just showing up in my inbox or, pulling on my sleeve. Yeah, okay, I see you. I see you. How long before I decide to just, go with it and have faith that that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Interesting.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's happened more in probably the last, 5 or 6 years for me and And I don't know if it's just because I'm more open to seeing them.
Maybe.
Maybe it's because I'm searching for them too a little bit. But then that's where I go. Is it my own personal, like I'm searching and that's what I want, and so that's why I see them?
Could be.
Or is it being put in front of me? Sorry.
You're fine.
Is it being put in front of me because I'm trying to be led in that direction?
Anything's possible.
But then I disqualify myself with all the X, Y, and Z why I'm not qualified to do it.
Which, I mean, without giving necessarily details, but how do you disqualify yourself?
I mean, in all sorts of ways, like, oh, I don't have enough experience, or, oh, I don't have, like, that won't work with my schedule, or that, like little petty things. It's not even necessarily big, So I think deep down, like, I'm not the most confident person in the world, but I think deep down, like, I know what I'm good at. It's just a matter of, and like and I know that I can do it. Because first of all, you're not going to tell me that I can't do something, because I will show you that I can do it.
Preach.
And do it better than you even expected. So it's not that. It's all the little things that I let get in the way. And like the little anxieties and the little that add up to a big thing, even though it shouldn't.
I think, though, I think you're right that probably most people deep down know what they're good at and what they're not. I think a lot of people act in modesty.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not going to say humility, but modesty, to go, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I have learned to say this. I'm a good piano player, for example. I'm not the best.
That's fair.
I find myself to be mediocre. Other people would say that I'm good. I find myself to be mediocre, though, compared to the people that I think are the best.
Okay.
So I come across in this sort of modesty going, I'm all right.
Right.
Deep down, I know I'm a pretty decent piano player. I have a lot of improvement.
You're a really good piano player. I know I'm proving your point.
You are. Case in point.
But also, I can't play a thing on the piano. You know what I mean? So,
Yep. But perspective is huge.
right.
So I think that people walk in a sort of modesty. They know that they're good at some things. But for the person that doesn't have the self-confidence, when you stack yourself up against somebody who's better than you, that's where you feel like the scales are tipped in their favor.
Right.
And you don't feel like you're qualified. I could say Billy Joel. Billy Joel, somebody who's big. He's a much better piano player than I am. And my perspective could then be, being that good is what it takes to be big. When in reality, he's been in the business for 50 years.
Dang. That needs to be one of your new buttons.
Dang.
Dang. What?
50 years.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. Now, he was good when he first started off, but he's gotten better.
Yeah.
There might be people that disagree. I don't know. But I mean, his abilities are better.
Do you know, this is, again, squirrel, but how did he get into piano? Do you know?
He was a kid.
Yeah.
And I think his parents made him take lessons.
Oh. And how did you get into piano?
We had, in my house, we had a Wurlitzer organ. Mm-hmm. And I would sit down and just start playing out different things by ear. I wanted to get into band when I was in 5th grade. Mm-hmm. So that's what, 11?
Yeah, 10 or 11.
So I got into band. I wanted so bad to play the saxophone. And the teacher said, what we really need is trombone. Mm-hmm. Because there was only one other person playing trombone. One or two other people playing trombone.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And the teacher, I even think...
Were you so sad?
I was. Because I think the teacher even said, maybe down the road you can switch to saxophone.
Aww.
Seems like I can't remember. But yeah, I wanted to play
see
saxophone.
little tiny Jason with his
my
heart broken.
gosh.
That makes me sad. Okay, carry on.
Oh my. I want to play saxophone.
What makes you think you're so special?
No, she wanted me to play trombone, so okay, I played trombone. So I started learning notes then, and even in 5th and 6th grade, started to learn things on trombone by ear. But so then I would sit down at this organ, and I would play out notes and stuff that I would hear by ear and try to learn songs by ear. My grandpa, my mom's dad, was the one who sat down with me and showed me where the notes were
Oh, sure.
and what they were and what,
Did he play that
very
organ?
basic. No, but he was he played piano.
Okay.
Not, I don't know if he played. He was good. I mean, he was
Yeah.
somebody who took lessons as a kid and
Okay.
was able to play and whatever. So he knew things. But not like he was this real
Right.
accomplished
Okay.
piano player. But from there, that's when it took off for me.
Okay.
Was doing music, learning things by ear. I furthered it because of a girl.
Yes, I want to hear this story.
Why?
That may be why I opened up this conversation.
I see. So that the whole world can understand.
Well, you can tell me off this. You can.
No, it's
you
fine.
Can cut
Here we
this
go.
out. I mean, you put it on the website.
I did
so
put it on the
I
website.
feel like,
People are wanting to know.
yeah.
Because everybody has gone to that website.
I mean, I have. And maybe I've heard the story before, but I can't remember it.
That's all right. So I was about, 15, maybe.
Okay.
Freshman.
Yeah, 14, 15.
And the lady that did the choir, high school choir at the time, she was also, I mean, I had her in elementary music, but she did show choir. And so there was this group who they were, I don't remember exactly how the
I
circumstance went.
think I have heard this story now.
They were supposed to go do something, and they needed that piano background.
Oh.
And I'm like, you guys, I know very little on piano. The one girl in the group, though, right, had a major crush on her. And
Do you want to give her a shout out?
shout out,
I'm kidding.
hey, Thank you for the trajectory of my life. So they want me to play this, and I'm like, I don't. And they're like, all you have to do is play chords on a piano. And I'm like, I don't know what a chord on a piano is. What's guitar chords? I don't play guitar. I don't know how to play guitar. But if you show me, I'll do it.
Oh, Jason.
So they showed me kind of like what it meant to play. Looking back, I'm going, why didn't you guys just do it?
I could have sang and danced. Why didn't you play the piano?
If you knew how to do it, you play it.
If you knew how to do it, I could have danced with the girl.
Dang it.
So did you sit at the piano like every day practicing this?
I probably did, and they were simple songs.
So that you could impress little Susie?
Wasn't Susie, but yeah, sure. Don't.
Okay.
No.
Oh, you can beep out the name.
But yes, that's how I learned.
Okay.
So I attribute it to a girl
Okay.
that furthered my piano playing abilities.
Well, bravo, ma'am.
Yep, didn't get the girl, but hey,
Got some mad skills.
something.
Okay.
And that's the story of my music life.
All right. Perfect. But also, you believed you could.
I did my absolute best
Right.
so that she would be impressed.
Right. Well, but what I'm saying is you weren't qualified.
Right.
If I want to bring it back full circle here,
Absolutely.
you weren't qualified to play the piano.
No. The driving force was somebody.
Was a little lady.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. That's how that goes.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
I feel like this just became my podcast. So, Jason.
That's the story of my music career. You know what's funny, though? Taking that and going into a band. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, I'm in this band called The Wannabes. I've been in it since December of 2005.
Dang.
Yes.
You old.
I am old. But what's funny about that is, and because if you listen to the first episode of this podcast, you would know that I've been through a divorce.
Right.
What's funny is I joke with the drummer of the band to say, I've been with you longer.
Wow. True love.
True love.
Wow.
Yep. Crazy, huh?
That is crazy.
How about you?
I don't know how to play the piano, but thank you for asking. I took lessons for about 6 months, and I think the 5th or 6th grade. The end.
Why?
Aren't you glad that you made this decision?
Yeah. No, tell me about what got you where you are today. What was
Gosh.
what was the determining factor for you going into education, early education?
It was just, I always thought I remember preschool, I remember elementary so well. And I just always thought, wow, I want to do that. I want to be a teacher. They are just, and it wasn't like I was the best student I wasn't a bad student, but I don't know. I just always really wanted to do it. Then as I got older and realized that there's really no money in teaching, I tried very hard to pivot to something different. And so I had originally wanted to go to school to teach, didn't, went to school, actually, I think you know this, maybe not. Went to school, was enrolled in the graphic design program. Last minute, very last minute, pivoted again because I was like, graphic design, what? No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. This was like when graphic design.
What?
Exactly. Yeah. So very last minute, right before classes started, pivoted to paralegal studies.
From graphic design
And from teaching.
to paralegal.
Paralegal. Hated that. Actually started school for that. Hated that. Was awful. Lasted about 6 weeks. Moved home. It's like, no. My first go at college was not a success. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Moved home after, like I had moved to Fort Wayne, moved home after about 6 or 8 weeks. Was like, I just don't even want to do this. So I just started working, and I actually had a job through the college that I had just gone home from at a big company in Fort Wayne. So I drove back and forth for a while, about an hour back and forth. And then I was like, okay, I can't do this for the rest of my life. Like, this is not. And at that point, I had enough time kind of away that I was like, okay, just do it. You want to go to school. You've always loved teaching. You love kids. You love the idea of that. It just comes naturally. Just do it. So that's how I ended up back in education. And it just truly, I mean, that experience in college versus the first experience was completely different in that I'm not sure I wouldn't have failed out the first time. Like, truly. I just was like, yeah, I don't understand this. I'm not going to do it, which is that's completely out of character for me.
Right.
But so then when I went back, it was like I was a great student. First of all, this time I was paying for it myself. So that definitely was a different motivating factor.
Right.
But I was paying for it myself. I was going to school, I think just part-time at first and working full-time. And then I was going to school full-time and working full-time. And I just wanted it so badly. So I did. And graduated like with a, 4.0 or whatever. Because I wanted it so badly. And that's how it happened. But like, even growing up, I had all of like one of my most prized possessions was that somewhere along the way, someone had given me a math book, which I'm terrible at math, but that's neither here nor there. A math book that was like the teacher's edition. So it was like spiral bound, and it had all of the questions and the answers.
Okay.
I thought I was so cool. Loved to play school with that. Make people sit down and play school with me all the time. They're lucky I didn't know about like dry erase markers and stuff, because they'd have been in trouble.
I think it's funny because looking back now, as you're talking about that, I'm looking back and I'm going, I can remember when I was very little, probably first, second,
Yeah.
that we would do, my cousins and I, we would do these quote performances.
Of course. Every kid group, especially with your cousins.
Yeah. But I was always the one with the keyboard or the,
Were you?
yeah.
I love that.
Like I was, well, because my one cousin, she was the front girl
Of course.
for whatever.
Yeah. She was the ringleader.
She's the ringleader. Every family has that.
Absolutely. Was she older than you? Mm-mm. Oh, okay. She wasn't like the older cousin that was like, you get on the keyboard, you play the cymbals, you play these pots and pans like drums.
No.
Okay.
No, she was the younger cousin that did that.
Oh, okay. That's fair too.
No. But things like that, or being a junior high kid, having cassettes, which turned into Napster.
Oh.
Turned into whatever.
Turned into illegal.
Maybe. Wait a minute.
LimeWire. Crashed the family computer.
Gosh. Wow. No, but having that and acting like I was a radio disc jockey.
Oh, you could do that.
Right.
You could do that. Hey, so here's the other thing about the teacher. I've seen a meme that says people who got comments on their report card about talks too much. What's your career now? A teacher. Can't beat them, join them.
That's right. That's right.
I thought, wow, that fits. That happened.
That happened. No, but going, okay, radio disc jockey, keyboard, piano, whatever.
Yeah.
And here I am. I'm sitting here talking with you on a podcast, looking like I've got a radio disc jockey setup.
Looking super cool.
Looking or listening, you can hear the music in the background is mine. You know, public speaking.
Yeah.
Every week. So all the things that I grew up doing or dreaming about, they just manifested in a different.
Right. So don't you think that that's fun? Like, especially if you have young people in your life, that you can kind of look at them and you almost feel like you have it figured out, like what they're going to do or be because of just their interest in knowing how your interest, not that you're like trying to sway them in one way or the other, but like knowing how your interest manifested into something that became a big part of your life. So like my youngest daughter, for example, she can sit and build anything you put in front of her with Legos. Like I would be 0% shocked if she grows up to be some sort of engineer. Like she's just whip smart. She can figure anything like that out. Like I can't build anything with Legos to save my life. First of all, I've never spent a lot of time at it, but I mean, she will sit for hours just and bring out this massive piece. And like math and all of that just comes, like she can see it in her mind. Like she doesn't need to write it down. Like she can just see it, which is crazy to me because she did not get that from me. And then like my older daughter, she's very, and part of it's probably just her age, but very into like skincare and her hair and, you know, like taking good care of both of those things. And so I'm like, well, will she end up in some field like that? Or the empathetic piece in her, I feel like she may end up as a teacher, like just because of how she kind of.
Yeah, having maybe only met them once or twice. The thing that I would have imagined, the thing that I would have imagined about your oldest is I could see her almost going into social work.
Oh yeah, that might be good too. Yeah. She's just like super empathetic.
Yeah.
And you can relate to just about anybody with like, yeah.
Interesting.
So anyway, I'm not sure this has anything to do with what we were talking about, the whole reason for this podcast, but.
Well, just being qualified.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I guess it is because how much of your qualifications are just like those talents that are just innate, you know, like they're just there.
They're there and you have thought this is what I should do with them or could do with them. And then life goes or God goes, They're talents and desires that you have to do, but this is how I want to use them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Usually in ways that I never even considered.
right, because, and then that's when you're going, in my way, I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't know that I want to be a pastor. You don't feel qualified to be a pastor, to lead people and knowing what I know a pastor does. Well, number one, times are changing.
Right.
And which means somebody who pastored in 1980 might not make it today in 2024. You know
Probably
what I mean?
not.
The way that worked.
Probably not. During the service the other day, I was thinking about different things that I had witnessed, like as a kid in church, and then things like as a young adult, and then like how it is now, and just how different, like vastly different it is. And it's really all, I mean, I know like now is non-denominational, but it's the same background. I mean, having just left the Methodist church or whatever, just how vastly different it is. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. But I think that's, again, qualifications mean absolutely nothing when there is this higher power who is sort of maneuvering the trajectory of things, especially his. If this church is supposed to be his,
Right.
I mean, church, not just
This one, but
in general.
right.
If it's supposed to be his, then why wouldn't he? You know,
Right.
the face of things change. It's not.
Right. The thing that I think about sometimes and just kind of like sit back and awe and think, wow. It's like all the things that happen or that lead us to where we end up and in the situations we end up in. I'm like, he knew all of that? Man.
Right.
Why did we have to do all of that? Okay.
Right.
I know you see the big picture and I don't, but why did we have to do all of that?
Why'd I have to go through this?
Right.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me again.
Sorry, Dan. I tried to invite him.
Yeah, Dan, where were you at?
Yeah.
We had some good laughs.
Unfortunately, he couldn't make it tonight. Couldn't do
If
it.
he really wanted to, he would have. Just kidding, Dan.
Oh, my Lord. All right.
All right.
Until next time.
Bye.
Did you enjoy today's episode? Why not subscribe to Espresso Coffee Talk? Stay in the know. Get some alerts when new episodes come out. Did you love today's episode? Why not send some love in return? Give me some stars in your podcast app. Leave me some comments. Let me know how I'm doing. Just please be gentle. You've been listening to Espresso Coffee Talk.